Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Tamurkhan. So Tamurkhan is one of two new Nurgle legendary lords added in Thrones of Decay, and this particular campaign here is the campaign that I did a live stream on day one of Thrones of Decay. We only did one live stream of this, and I would have liked to have played this more. I definitely enjoyed this campaign, for sure. There were definitely some quirks to this, so I want to talk about that. So he starts his campaign at the plains of Zambaijin, which I think is a very lore-friendly place for him to start. So from his lore, this is basically where he begins his journey, and then eventually makes his way to Nuln and dies. Anyway, he starts his campaign here, and he is sandwiched between Archaon, who starts at the Writhing Fortress, who is pretty friendly towards you. You don't have to fight Archaon, obviously I did. And you start off at war with Kholek Suneater, who is possibly one of the more difficult starting enemies of any faction that you can go up against. So you also have a punching bag Norscan faction, the Dolgan, that you can go up against, or that you will go up against. And there are some quirks to this situation here, because every other faction in the game can recruit as they conquer, right? You capture a settlement, recruit over the end turn, move, recruit, based on basically tier 0 recruitment available. You know, Empire, you'll have spearmen and archers, that kind of stuff. But Nurgle doesn't work that way. So you start your campaign, you'll start off with a few units, and you'll have a few units in your recruit pool, but it's not enough to get a full stack going. And the amount of time before you get your next available unit is actually quite a long time. In order to get your first available unit, you have to build a military barracks in the in your settlement. You don't just get free units from your main building. Now, in order to purchase a military building, you need to use infections. Now, you'll start off with about 200 infections, which is enough to build one military building. Each military building, no matter which one you build, will take 4 turns to build. So you'll get it finished on turn 5. And then it needs to cycle, which you can speed up with infections if you really want to get some pretty basic units. So the ones that I went for here was the one that would eventually lead to Chosen, so the mortal melee infantry one, because that's what synergizes quite well with with Tamurkhan early on. But yeah, it'll be a few turns before you get your first available units in your recruit pool. So like 5 or 6 turns without having any additional units can be a bit daunting, especially on legendary difficulty, especially going up against Kholek Suneater, especially when he's got more than a full stack, and especially when Kholek Suneater at the early stages of the game is probably a bit of a better duelist than Tamurkhan. However, Tamurkhan's got a lot of quirks to him that you can use to your advantage. All I'm saying here is be cautious. Don't just run down over here thinking you're going to beat Kholek. You know, you could end up getting smashed. And if your army gets destroyed, you will have no availability of units available. You'll have to wait for your legendary heroes to come back, and you'll just have basic troops and just not be... You won't even be able to get a full stack together, even if Kholek delays in finishing you off. So you've got to be very careful. You cannot afford to suffer a defeat in the early stages of the campaign. It's game over at that point. Anyway, if we have a look at Tamurkhan, he's got a really interesting quirk to him. That is Feast of the Maggot Lord. This one here allows him to go into combat, die, and as long as, if we have a look here, as long as he is within 30 meters range of another enemy lord or hero, he will revive himself. He can't die for 7 seconds. Give 2.4% regen for 7 seconds, which is actually 8 ticks. And dish out an absolute ton of damage to that character as well. So you can kind of kamikaze him into Kholek. They're both anti-large. And if Tamurkhan ends up losing, well, then you end up winning, kind of, because this ability hits Kholek and kills him and revives you. So it's a bit of a quirk, bit of a crutch. I try not to rely on it. I didn't rely on it in this campaign. What I did instead was I recruited another lord here. I put Tamurkhan's army in ambush stance and lured all of his other minor lords, because they just saw this as an easy win for them. And they came up over this way, and I was able to isolate them from Kholek's forces, smash them, and then it was a fair fight against Kholek, and I rolled right over him. Then from there, this campaign got really weird. So instead of going at war with the Greenskins, I think I sold them back Blizzard Peak. I actually can't remember exactly what I did here, but whatever the case was, I just neutralized them as an enemy. Instead, I wanted to go in this direction here because I wanted to meet Epidemius. So I took on Archaon, killed everything that I could in the area, Took out Archaon with ease, got his defeat trait, that was great, because it provides physical resistance, which is good. Took out the Boris Ursus, took out the Demon Prince. However, the Demon Prince had already defeated Epidemius, even though I sort of rushed over here as quickly as I could to deal with it. Now, you can revive Epidemius, the other Nurgle legendary lord. He can be revived at either the Forest of Decay or Bilious Cliffs. I opted for the minor settlement because it's easier for him to recapture that than it is a major settlement. It took me quite a while to cause a revolt here. So I got bogged down a fair bit with Tamurkhan's army trying to revive Epidemius. But I did successfully revive him. However, I haven't confederated him at this point here. This was the point of where he just came back. So if you get lucky and you get over here and he's still alive, that's really great for you. But that's not what happened for me. Now, that's not the only thing that was going on in this campaign. So down here, a cult showed up at the Shattered Stone Arc. This is where Kugath Plaguefather starts. And cults will show up anywhere where there's lots of Nurgle corruption. So naturally, even if Kugath does get smashed, which usually is what happens, there's a good chance of a cult showing up. And that allows me to meet with Kugath. I became friends with him by joining his wars against the vampires and Goldtooth. But Goldtooth eventually ended up beating Kugath to a bloody pulp. Because here's the big issue with the AI with Nurgle, right? If they, in the early stages of the campaign, as in the first 30 turns, end up getting their army wiped out, they really struggle to replace their armies. I mean, really struggle. It could take them 10, 20, or even 30 turns before they've got another full stack going together. I've seen Epidemius, this happened in my Malachi campaign. When I smashed Epidemius' initial army, he just could not raise another, he never got another full stack again. You just couldn't do it because of the way that the recruit pool works. So the AI, Nurgle, really suffers in this game. They are not strong at all. They're probably at the very bottom of the threat. And you might think that plagues are a bit of a concern, but not really. They're more of a nuisance than anything. Armies are what's going to dictate who's the strongest. And Nurgle just doesn't get their armies together very quickly unless they get a lot of territory and a lot of those cycles going. So in the late stages, super strong. Early stages, very weak. But anyway, with Kugath, he only had 2 settlements left. I confederated him, so I had Dreadrock and Dragonfang Mount, but I was at war with Goldtooth, so I knew I wasn't going to hold on to these territories. I sold Dreadrock to Goldtooth for a peace treaty and some money, and then I sold him Dragonfang Mount and vassalized him with it because it was worth so much. So that was a really weird thing that happened here. He's actually my vassal, and he then went and defeated Helman Gorst. So that's something really interesting that happened in this campaign. Anyway, so there's a lot of really interesting things that can happen throughout this particular campaign, I think. Now, let's talk about his actual faction mechanic. So, it's all about his dominance. That's what the main resource that you spend. And you just get that from winning battles. So, pretty simple. You don't need to go out of your way to do it. You will fight battles, so you'll just get dominance by playing the game. So you spend dominance on various different things here. There's so much to spend it on. So you'll initially use it to unlock his chieftains. So Kha'Zix the Befouled is a Nurgle legendary hero, obviously. And so he'll come with Nurgle units, which you have to spend dominance on to get more of. If the unit gets wiped out, you have to spend more dominance to get another one. Obviously getting some early game Rot Knights is super good, because I think Rot Knights are fantastic. And each one comes with their own theme and various other things. So we'll go through all this stuff. So we've got the Warriors of Chaos champion here, which comes with the Warriors of Chaos units. You've got 2 Norscan characters. You've got a Fimir, Balefiend, and a Norscan Skinwolf, both of which come in with different Norscan units. You've got a Beastman Bray Shaman of Wild, coming with some Beastman units as well, and some abilities. We'll get to that in a bit. And also a Chaos Dwarf Infernal Castellan. Once you've obtained these guys here, you'll notice that there is a little circle around them. I finished it with Kha'Zix. This is his fealty. So by doing things that they like, they will sort of become more loyal to you. It never goes backwards, that you can't do anything to piss them off. But yeah, so for this guy specifically, every time I raise a settlement to the ground, defeat Empire, Bretonnia, Cathay, or Kislev in battle, it goes up by 1 point. As it goes up, you will get various benefits, and activate various abilities over here. So for example, if we have a look at Mornhal here, I've already activated this one here in this campaign. Enables Stalking Stance for Mornhowl. It costs 1 dominance to do it. It's available for 2 turns, and with a cooldown of 10 turns there. So basically, you can have it 2 turns on, 8 turns off. And if we have a look, that enables us to basically become a Skaven and ambush attack, which is incredibly powerful, especially when you're using a melee-focused army like this. Although, you'll need to get your ambush success chance up, I think, in order to really get use of it. But still, really good ability to have if there's, if you don't have Lightning Strike and you've got a lot of enemies to deal with. Having these abilities here can be really useful in a pinch situation. Like this one here, chance of plague spreading plus 20%. So lots of things that you can always spend some dominance on throughout the rest of your campaign. Each of them also come with some unique items that they can equip. And also, the more fealty that each of them have, if we have a look at them, their trait over here improves, which will provide added benefits. Now, some of these benefits are not that big of a deal. So, for example, this guy here, if you want to use the Stalking Stance, having ambush success chance plus 40% will massively help. So, getting his full fealty for that will be very good. And then some of these are a little bit on the lame side. So income from raising settlements, campaign movement range after raising a settlement, that's all right. Only if you're raising settlements. So this guy here wants you to play a little bit more like a Warriors of Chaos, because Nurgle doesn't really benefit that much from blowing up settlements. You want to occupy them. So this I don't think is that particularly good. But whatever the case is, this is more one of the more interesting campaign mechanics in Total War Warhammer 3, because a lot of the mechanics that have been added for new Legendary Lords have been very much rehashed mechanics, just like Elspeth von Draken. I'm not saying it's bad what they've done with it, it makes a lot of sense, but what they essentially did was take Ikat Claw's Forbidden Workshop, change the UI, it's basically the same thing, where you just unlock bonuses with your faction spending. It's almost identical in function to Ikat Claw's mechanic, but this is completely unique to him. No other faction has anything anywhere close to this. So having something that's really unique for him is really quite good. And so if you have a look at Malachi, for example, he's got quite a few things that are at least a little bit similar. His adventures are a little bit like the monster hunting, but I'd say a lot more detailed. And of course, his Spirit of Grugny mechanic is very similar to the Vampire Coast shipbuilding. None of it bad, it's just those are the ones that were rehashed. So, some really good stuff in here that'll keep you busy throughout the campaign. And as you go through the turns as well, if you're not progressing on some of these, you will get dilemmas that can give you fealty, or if you don't want the fealty, you can choose other various benefits. So you can see here some of the dilemma bonuses are currently being applied up this way, which has been quite good. Now, another thing to talk about here is the Plague update. So, I definitely think this is better than the old Plague system, but I still think that of the 4 demon factions, Plagues are the weakest, comparing it to like Khorne's Blood Hosts, Slaanesha's Devotee armies and Seducing, and Tzeentch's just straight up cheats. Some of these effects, they're definitely good, but they're not on the same tier. The ones that I find to be the most beneficial, that suits my playstyle, is ones that provide lots of growth. So getting Blessed Ones of growth and getting these ones to spread around everywhere, that's quite nice to get things developed really quickly for Nurgle, which is definitely on theme. But I find that trying to cause damage to the enemy using Plagues is still a bit impotent, especially in terms of higher difficulties. Like if you're causing attrition onto the enemy, you've done like a super plague on them, and they're losing like 1% of their army per turn. It just feels low impact, even when these plagues are spreading all over the place. So I feel like plagues is not something that I really focused on that much in this particular campaign. I much more wanted to spend my infections on actually building up my military. But I definitely did make some plagues, but focused on primarily growth, because at this stage here, turn 55, we can see that I'm still at tier 4. It does take a little while to get to tier 5, because with Nurgle, they actually require an additional growth point to get to tier 3. Everyone requires 2, except for them, which requires 3. But overall, I think this is a really good campaign. I enjoyed it. Tamurkhan's super bloody strong. You can go with so many different variety of units with him, because he just boosts mortal units. You just don't really want to put demons in there. I know I've got one in there, it's just a placeholder. Having him with some heroes, or all of his heroes, you can do that. You can spread them out if you want. You've got so many variety of ways to play with Tamurkhan, but I would say that of the DLC lords, I enjoyed Tamurkhan's campaign the least. So my top pick was Malachi, then Elspeth, then Tamurkhan. Definitely did enjoy it. I think it was a great campaign. I enjoyed all 3 of the Thrones of Decay Legendary Lords, but this one was just the one that I thought was the 3rd most fun. Let's put it that way. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Tamurkhan, how much you agree or disagree with what you've said. With what I've said in this review. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.